About 6 months ago, I sat down with a client to have a hard conversation. Their Google reviews, they really sucked, and I'm talking bad. They had a rough patch a few years ago with their management, and as a result, they had a whopping 41 one-star reviews out of 279 total reviews. So their average was 4.3 stars. So not only were their salespeople losing deals in the house, and not only were they losing leads that just simply never came in from nervous prospects who were like, yeah, screw those guys, they're also finding it impossible to get ranked in the Google Map Pack because why on earth would Google suggest a crappy company? LSA had the same problem and their closing ratios, like I said, were really, really low. In short, their bad reputation from Google reviews was killing their growth. This isn't really a marketing issue and it's not really a revenue issue. Your online reputation is not separate from your business. It is your business. My name is Rich Harshaw. I'm the CEO of Level 10 Contractor. For over 30 years, I've worked with remodeling and home services companies from 3 million to 20 plus million companies. And I can tell you this, companies that treat reviews casually pay for it in ways they don't even see. It hurts bad. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 5 ways to deal with bad online reviews. And we're going to go deeper than just be nice and respond politely. And yes, we're going to run the math because that's kind of what I do. If this kind of detail helps you think more clearly about your business, then hit the like and subscribe button. I don't do fluff. I only do specifics. So let's get into it. Okay, so here's the first way to deal with bad reviews. Don't get them in the first place. Yeah. No duh, Rich. I mean, everybody knows that. Look, I'm not going to insult you and say, just do good work. I'm assuming that you're already trying to deliver quality, but things do go wrong. Communication slips, expectations misalign, management changes, crews vary. In other words, crap is going to happen. And that's not really the problem. The problem is not catching a bad review before it happens. That's why you need a brand ambassador program. How many times have I talked about that on this podcast, on these videos? A brand ambassador is a person that you send in after the job is complete. They bring a little gift. They ask for business. They ask for referrals. They take photos of the job. They take photos of the customer that you can use in your marketing. Yippee-ki-yay. Everybody knows that. Those are awesome things. I've talked about it a million times before, but the brand ambassador is also going to cover your ass. They're going to meet with the customer, preferably 1 to 3 days after the job is done while everything is still fresh. If the customer knows the brand ambassador is coming, if they're pissed off for some reason, then there's a good chance that they're going to save their complaints for that meeting. So that's good. Great. Now, after giving the gift, the first thing the brand ambassador is going to do is give the customer a little survey. It's like 6 to 10 questions. How did the job go? Were there any problems? Was it finished on time? Did it stay within budget? Stuff like that. Then the biggie, if you had to do this project all over again, would you still choose us to do it? If the answer is not good, or if there's anything on the survey that looks bad, or even if it's just iffy, then the brand ambassador is going to throw a flag and say, hey, look, I see that there's an issue here, and I am not the person who can solve this, but I am absolutely the person who can get the ball rolling. So if it's okay with you, what I'm going to do is pull up my phone, and what I want to do is record you telling me exactly what the problems were. Okay, so they're going to take their phone, they're going to make a video, maybe they'll do an auto recording, whatever the case is. And they're going to say, look, I'm not the person that can solve the problem, but I'm going to get involved and get the right people involved in this. So they're going to say, I'm going to record exactly what it is the problem was. Go ahead and tell me. And again, I'm not going to try to solve your problem, but I will get the right people involved because I want you to know this right now. We will make this right. Is that fair enough? Now, first of all, if your brand ambassador positions it like that, then the likelihood of getting his or her head ripped off on that spot right there, pretty low. It's probably not going to happen. People tend to respond, generally speaking, pretty well to a rational discussion, especially when it's done compassionately with the promise to fix things, okay? Second of all, look what you just did. You just cut off a bad review at the pass. This alone can cut legitimate bad reviews by a massive percentage. I don't know what the number is, but it's going to be some. The brand ambassador in this case is going to take the it's like a deposition basically, and let's face it, that's what it is. And then they're going to thank the customer and they're going to leave, okay? They're not going to take the photos, they're not going to request referrals, they're not going to ask for more business, they're not going to ask for even a customer review. Then what they're going to do is they're going to run back to the office and get your fixer involved. You have a fixer, don't you? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. If there isn't a problem and the customer is happy, then they just absolutely ask them for the review right there and then. Duh, that's obvious. This means that you're avoiding bad reviews and you're also getting good reviews. reviews. That's the brand ambassador. Now, the math on this works to your advantage, and it works big time. If you leave reviews to chance, you're going to lose. If you rely on an email drip campaign, like send out the email, hey, please give us a review, or you send out the text messages, all that stuff, guess what's going to happen? You're actually reminding your pissed off customers to blow you up on Google. That's what you're doing. It's a bad idea. Get a brand ambassador, get them in the house, and hopefully do this forever. I mean, it's just good for business and it's going to pay for itself. But at a minimum, send in your brand ambassador until your Google reviews reach what I call escape velocity, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Okay, now let's move on to the second way to deal with bad reviews, which is never ignore them. Now, if it was back in 1995, you had a mad customer, they're going to tell, remember, you used to hear this stat all the time, they're going to tell 10 friends. People that are mad, tell 10 friends. And that was the radius of the damage. It was 10 people. And honestly, none of those 10 people were probably going to do business with you anyway, so nobody really cared. The smoke would never turn into a fire and it would just sort of go away. Today, nope. It's totally different. That smoke turns into a lot of smoke, then it turns into, flames. And then if you have enough fire, the whole damn house is going to burn down. Because like I said at the beginning, it's not just prospective customers who are seeing those reviews, which is bad enough, catastrophic even, but also Google is going to see this. I mean, it's Google reviews. Of course, Google's going to see it. Do the math here, people. You're trying to get ranked on Google. You're trying to find people through Google, and Google is the one in charge of the reviews. You're going to be screwed. You're not going to show up in search. LSA is going to be a problem. Ad performance is going to feel it. Future employees are going to see that you suck on your Google reviews. Your online reputation is not separate from your real reputation. It is your reputation. So what you need is a system. First of all, designate a bad review red alert person. This is your fixer. It's a single person whose job it is to discover the bad reviews ASAP and then handle them. You don't want a group of 2 or 3 people. Oh, well, you take it sometime. No. One person who owns this task. Next, they should set up an email alert from your Google business profile. Just go to your profile, select notifications, and then toggle on customer activity, and you'll receive immediate alerts when you get new reviews. Good reviews, bad reviews, doesn't matter. You're going to get them. And that's a good way to start. You now have a person who is 100% responsible, and they're getting real-time notifications. So what's next? Well, let's move on to the third way to deal with bad reviews, and I will answer that question. Here's what it is. You have to identify what you're dealing with. Look, all bad reviews are not created equal. There's 3 categories, generally speaking, which is trolls, unhappy prospects, and actual customers. So I want to talk about the first 2, and then in number 4, we'll talk about actual customers. So let's first talk about trolls. Trolls are things like competitors, disgruntled former employees, random chaos agents with Wi-Fi and a grudge. I mean, I don't know why some of these people are so pissed, but they just are out there. You know this. We all know this. You're almost never going to remediate these people. So stop trying to win them over emotionally. You don't want to respond to them. Your move here is strategic, not sentimental. Number 1, first of all, you need to verify and flag these immediately. That's going to send a signal to Google that, hey, this is not a real review. If they're not a customer, say so clearly in a public response and then flag the review with Google as not a customer or conflict of interest. Those are the categories they give you. Document everything. Most contractors don't even attempt to remove obvious troll reviews, which is lazy and crazy. Yeah, I don't know if it's more lazy or more crazy, but it's bad. Is Google going to remove all of these bad reviews? No. Will they remove some of them? Yes. And removing even a few can move your rating more than you think. Stick around. I'm going to do some math here in a minute. Number 2, you want to publicly disarm these folks without emotion. Your tone matters more than your argument. Instead of sounding defensive, you might want to say something like this. We have no record of this individual as a customer. If this review was left in error, please contact us so we can investigate. That makes you look stable and them look crazy, okay? You want to be professional, all right? Remember, you are not responding for the troll. You are responding for the next 500 people who are going to read that review. Number 3, you want to strengthen your profile around this troll review. These reviews look ridiculous when they're surrounded by just a ton of 5-star reviews, detailed testimonials, customer photos, thoughtful owner responses, stuff like that. They look believable when your profile is thin and weak. Trolls thrive in a low volume environment and they suffocate in high volume ones, okay? Let's move on to number 4 under the troll category, which is to use legal leverage when it's clearly defamatory and provably false. You can send a cease and desist letter. You're going to do this privately, okay? And it'll work in some extreme cases. You don't want to threaten people in public. You want to handle it professionally behind the scenes. And then the 5th thing Don't ever feed these trolls. Just no back and forth debates, no emotional replies, one professional response. That's it. You're done. You don't want to wrestle with pigs because everybody's going to get muddy. The pigs are going to enjoy it, and you're just going to smell like crap. Don't do that. Now let's move to unhappy prospects. These are the people who didn't buy from you for whatever reason, and then they decide to leave a bad review. You know exactly what I'm talking about because you've received these kinds of reviews before. Everybody has. These are not trolls, but they're not customers either, and they can create friction if you handle them poorly. So let's talk about some things to do to handle these upset non-customers, these prospects. First thing you want to do is clarify that they are not a customer, okay? That distinction matters. You might say something like this in a response. While we did not have the opportunity to complete a project for this individual, or something very official sounding like that, that signals to the readers that this review is coming from the estimate experience, not the quality of the completed work, and that's going to protect you. Second thing you want to do is reframe your sales process without apologizing. If they complain that you, let's say for instance, you wanted both spouses present, I can't believe them, they won't talk to me because I'm a woman, something like that. Explain calmly that you ask all the decision makers to attend consultations to ensure clarity and accurate pricing. That sounds structured. It's professional. It's not pushy. All right. The third thing is you want to own your pricing strategy. If somebody says you're too expensive, look, you don't want to fight with them about your prices. Just respond and say, our company focuses on, I don't know, full scope remodeling, premium materials, comprehensive project management, and it may not fit every budget, something like that. Premium brands like you're not going to apologize for your pricing. And then the fourth thing you want to do is invite a private conversation without begging for one. So you could say something like this. Again, this is in the response that's written there on Google. If you'd like to revisit your options, we'd be happy to discuss it with you. And that shows openness without desperation. Last, fifth, turn the criticism into identity reinforcement. If they complain about a 2-hour consultation or detailed measurements, then you explain why you put people through that kind of process to protect homeowners from surprises, cost overruns, whatever the story happens to be. And customers are going to read that and they're going to think, oh, okay, good. These guys are serious. Now, you might want to use some AI to help you generate these responses so that they're thorough and professional, but also you don't want them to be repetitive and obviously copied from previous responses if you've got several of these that you have to use them for. So that's how you deal with trolls and unhappy prospects. Check, we got those taken care of, which brings us to number 4 in the list of ways to deal with bad reviews, which is handling actual customer complaints, bad reviews the right way. For customers, this is different. Your first move is offline. Pick up the freaking phone, okay? You don't want to send some kind of canned AI-generated email. This is not the time and place. You don't want to please contact customer service reply on the actual review. Directly call them. This is where your designated person, your fixer, the one that you've already assigned to handle reviews, this is where they step in. This is their job. This is why they exist. They call the customer and they say, hey, I saw your review. I understand what you're saying. Let's fix this. When it's a real customer, the objective is not reputation management. The objective is resolution, period. Most negative customer reviews are not about catastrophic failures. They're about feeling unheard or disrespected or surprised or disappointed. The fastest way to diffuse that is human contact. Let them talk. Don't interrupt. Don't explain yet. Just listen first. The goal is remediation first, and ideally upgrading the review second. We do want that to happen, but it's got to be the second thing that happens. I mean, if you do solve the actual problem, genuinely solve it, then the review conversation often corrects itself. If your designated fixer jumps straight to, hey, would you mind changing your review before the issue is resolved? Obviously, that's dumb. It's going to feel transactional and cheap, and it's going to make things worse. If you can't resolve it privately, maybe they don't answer the phone, maybe they refuse to engage, then your fixer moves to the public response, and they need to move fast. Not next week, not when they get around to it, fast. That's their responsibility, okay? Respond to every review, positive and negative, so your prospects see that your company is present and accountable. A review profile with consistent owner or company responses is going to signal that you're a mature company that can be trusted. Be appreciative, be honest, be factual. If you messed up, say you messed up. Don't hide behind corporate fog like miscommunication. If it was a scheduling error, say it. If the materials were delayed for some reason, say it. If expectations weren't aligned, say it. Never, ever, ever attack in your reviews. Even if you believe the customer is exaggerating or just a big fat idiot, the second your fixer gets defensive publicly, you're going to lose credibility with everybody who's watching that, and it's going to be a lot of people. If your fixer attempted to reach the customer multiple times, document that effort in the response. Calmly, we reached out on these dates and these dates and these dates and would still welcome the opportunity to resolve this. This signals diligence and professionalism. Remember, your fixer is not trying to win an argument with an upset customer. What they're doing is writing a response for the next 500 prospects who are going to read that review. Those prospects are evaluating whether the company takes responsibility, if it fixes problems, and whether it behaves like a grown-up when something goes wrong. And here's a power move that your fixer can deploy when appropriate. If you genuinely messed up and you fixed it, write a short post explaining what happened and how you made it right. Just to own it, explain the correction, show the outcome, then link to it in your response. That transforms a negative review into proof of integrity and some kind of process improvement. If you handle it correctly, a negative review from a real customer is not going to weaken you. It's going to demonstrate leadership, and it's going to actually be helpful. Now, you don't want 1,000 of them, but if you've got a few and you own it, it's going to do good. So here's what I want to do next. I want to run you through some math. And this is consistent with the fifth way to deal with bad reviews. And this is where most contractors get emotional instead of analytical. What you want to do is dilute the damage with volume and velocity. And like I said at the beginning of this video, this is not just about feelings. This affects your rankings. It affects your map pack visibility. It affects your lead flow, and it affects your closing ratio. You've got to make this a priority. Google's not in the business of recommending companies that look risky. So let's establish the rating spectrum so that you know what you're aiming at. Let's start with 4.1 stars. Anything less than 4.1 stars, you might as well be dead. It's just not going to work. You're going to go out of business, okay? 4.2 and 4.3 stars, that's pretty terrible, but you can probably still get some business. We've got to improve that though. 4.4 makes people hesitate. 4.5 is tolerable. That's where you're in the tolerable range. 4.6 is pretty solid, and anything 4.7 or above is going to signal a premium company. 4.8 or 4.9, whatever, that's going to make you look like a real category leader. And that's what we're going for, obviously. So let's revisit the example I gave you at the beginning of this video, but I want to give you a little bit more detail. So here was the situation. At the time of our conversation, they had 279 total reviews, and of those, 41 were one-star reviews. 41. That is an enormous number of one-star reviews, okay? And they had had a lot of problems. It had been a couple years before, but they were there, okay? And then they also had 6 two-star reviews. And let's see, let me check my notes here. 4 3 stars, 6 4 stars, and then they had 222 5 stars, which that sounds pretty good. The average rating was 4.3. Okay, so we're down in that terrible range. Now I want you to notice something. Even with 222 out of 279 being 5-star reviews, the rating still sucks, okay? Think about that for a minute. A 4.3 doesn't look catastrophic at first glance, but when you've got those 41 1 stars sitting there like landmines, that's going to create real hesitation from prospective customers. They were losing deals in the home. They were losing deals like that never even came in as leads because the people were nervous and they were like, heck, screw this company. I'm not going to call them. On top of that, they were struggling to rank consistently on the Google Map Pack. And again, just think about it. It's very simple. You don't need to understand everything about Google, but just know this. They're not going to confidently recommend a company that looks unstable. That's 4.3 stars and 41 1 stars. So, okay, let's go to the solution. First of all, you want to get rid of bad reviews. And more importantly, you want to add a ton of new 5-star reviews. The idea is to drown out the bad reviews with good ones. Now, you might be wondering, how do you get rid of bad reviews? And the truth is, there are some third-party companies that specialize in getting bad reviews removed. It's a thing. Now, before you get too excited, let me temper this immediately. First of all, it's expensive. You're typically looking at somewhere between $1,200 and $1,500 per review moved, okay? So just getting rid of 10 bad reviews, it's a 5-figure effort. Second of all, there's a lot of companies out there that make big promises and they don't deliver. And I can tell you this from experience. They're going to tell you that they can wipe your profile clean. I've seen companies that have sent checks off to these kinds of companies and then nothing happens. It's a scam. But there is one company that I know that actually delivers, and I'm not going to say their name here publicly in a video like this. I don't want to have this turn into some kind of weird underground referral circus. If you want to know who it is, just reach out to us privately here at Level 10 Contractor. But here's the reality. Even the companies like the one that I just mentioned that are good, they don't bat 1,000. They just don't. My experience is that their success rate is about 50%, sometimes a little higher, sometimes a little lower. And this is important. You're only going to pay for the successful removal. So if they can't get a review removed, then you don't pay for that particular removal. They tend to have better success with newer bad reviews, and the older the review is, the harder it is to get rid of it. But we have seen some success with older reviews too. So how do they do it is the obvious question. And the answer is, I don't have any idea. It's a secret sauce. For all I know, it involves crystals or aliens or bribing someone at Google. I'm mostly kidding when I say that, but I genuinely don't know the mechanics of how it works. I just know that it works some of the time. Here, I'm going to give you a real example. In the case that I just mentioned earlier, the client with 41 one-star reviews, over the course of 4 months, we were able to successfully remove 11 of those 41. 11 of them just gone. There was another 13 that they tried and could not remove. So boom, they're no luck. They're just still there. And right now they're still chipping away at the other 17. So we managed to eliminate some of the worst ones, some of the most damaging reviews. And that matters because not all 1-stars are created equal, right? Some are mild, some are catastrophic. If you can remove the most inflammatory ones, the overall perception, it's going to improve a lot. Now, does this replace velocity? No, it does not. Does it replace remediation? But if you're carrying 30 or 40 landmines from a bad era in your company, it happens. Sometimes strategic removal is part of the cleanup process. So just understand, this isn't magic. It's not cheap. It's not guaranteed. It's a lever. It's a lever, okay? Not a silver bullet. But the other thing that this client has done is they've stepped up their efforts to get a lot more new 5-star reviews using the brand ambassador program like I just talked about earlier in this video. Like a lot of things in marketing, it's really just a math problem. So I'm going to walk you through the math. Let's assume that they can reduce the 41 1-star reviews down to 25. Now, like I said, 11 of them are already gone, so they only need to remove, 5 out of the last 17, which is doable. It's expensive, but it's doable. That brings the total number of reviews from 279 down to 263, okay? The star rating, here's what's going to happen. It's going to go from 4.3 to 4.5 stars just by getting rid of 16 1-star reviews. So the question then becomes, how many 5-star reviews do they need to add in order to get up to a 4.7 average? And the answer is, if you do the math, 177. And that's assuming that they don't get any more 4, 3, 2, 1-star reviews. 177 new 5-star reviews. Now, this company, they only do about 30 jobs a month in total. So they're going to need to get about 15 a month for a solid year to raise their average to 4.7. That's getting half of all their customers to give them a review for a solid year. So rule number 1, don't screw yourself over with a bunch of 1-star reviews. Recovery is it's trouble, okay? I'll just use that word. Rule number 2, flood your profile with 5-star reviews, because here's the thing. Once you hit about 500 reviews or so, and you've got a 4.7 or higher rating, you essentially become bulletproof, because then at that point, a random 1-star review here or there isn't going to hurt you that much. In fact, it's going to be statistically insignificant, but you've got to stock up first. At 500 reviews, a 1-star review that randomly comes in for whatever reason is barely going to move the needle. It's statistical noise. The goal is not perfection. The goal is insulation, okay? So add new 5-stars aggressively, consistently. That's called velocity. And then meanwhile, remediate, upgrade, and remove old negative reviews to the extent that you can. Remember the example from a minute ago. Removing just 16 1-star reviews brought them up from 4.3 to 4.5. But then to get the next 2/10 from 4.5 to 4.7, they're going to have to add 177 5-star reviews. That's a lot. The bad reviews, if there's a lot of them, they are asymmetrically hurting you. Does that make sense? Are you following me here? This is why having your designated fixer matters. This is why having a brand ambassador program matters. This is why remediation matters, because math does not care about your feelings. Math rewards systems. So if you think this is helpful, I want you to drop a comment below. Tell me your current Google rating. I'm curious how many of you are operating in the premium zone and how many of you are maybe in the terrible zone. Maybe you're not even thinking about it. So go take a look, find out what it is, drop it in the comments. So let's recap the 5 ways to deal with bad reviews. First, avoid them by having a brand ambassador who's going to cut them off at the pass. Second, never ignore them. Third, identify which type you're dealing with. Remember the trolls, and then you have the, what do we call them? Unhappy prospects. Fourth, if it's an actual customer, you want to respond offline first, then publicly and professionally through your designated fixer. Fifth, you want to flood the zone with 5-star reviews reviews and let math work in your favor. It's not that complicated, but it does require ownership. If one person is not 100% responsible for reviews in your company, everything you just heard is going to sound smart, and then it's just going to kind of drift and it won't necessarily change. So you need to fix that, and you're going to see a major improvement. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, happy marketing, man. Go do it.